Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to talk to you about the season penultimate episode of Star Trek Prodigy. It was called Supernova Part 1, and it was excellent. It was a fantastic episode, and I want to tell you why. As it begins, we find Admiral Janeway in the brig on the Dauntless trying to explain what's going on. But no one's listening because they think she's crazy. And at the same time, it looks like the whole darn fleet is bearing down on the Protostar. Admiral Jericho shows up again and orders an attack on the Protostar so that the shields will go down and it can be boarded. With the protodrive offline, the Protostar can't jump, so the crew uses impulse to try to evade phaser fire and also, I guess, photon torpedo fire from the fleet. And this was actually an amazing sequence. It was well written and well depicted, with the various shots that were animated. It was just really, really good. It showed the crew doing their jobs completely competently, just like Starfleet officers, using the strategies the Starfleet officers would use. It was just really, really well done as a sequence. During the sequence, Dahl remarks that they'll probably all end up looking back at this and laughing when they're all in Starfleet Academy, which of course he can't join because he's an augment. And Rock almost spills the beans about this because he doesn't know this yet. But Gwen interrupts her, and kind of gets her not to say it because it's probably not the right time. Over on the Dauntless, the officer guarding Janeway ends up letting her out of the brig when she realizes that Janeway is pretty serious about everybody needing to listen to her about the danger. And because she was a refugee that Janeway once saved when she commanded Voyager. And I guess that harkens back to a particular episode of the show. Back on the Protostar, Gwen goes to the armory to grab a phaser, I guess because she's planning to effect some type of assault on the fleet. And when Dahl follows her, she says that in case she doesn't get back, she wants him to hear something from her. And he thinks that she's professing her love for him, so he kisses her, which she is, of course, surprised by. But then she tells him that what she wanted to tell him is that she's found out that augments can't join Starfleet. Upon hearing this, Dahl decides he's going to be the one to make the assault because he can't join Starfleet anyway, and if he gets in trouble, it won't affect the possibility of joining for the rest of the crew. Next, Ensign Essentia, the Diviner, and Dreadnought board the Protostar when the shields go down and impulse engines go inoperable. Dahl, Rock, and Jacob fight Dreadnought while the Diviner and Essentia take over the bridge and turn off the Janeway hologram. When the Diviner goes to check on the weapon below the command deck, Essentia closes him in there, and when Gwen approaches the bridge and tells Essentia to get off her ship, which was awesome, the two of them fight. Meanwhile, Dreadnought almost kills Dahl, but Murph shows up and starts kicking his ass, only to not be able to take him down, at which point Murph ends up pinned to a wall by some kind of goo, it looks like. Dahl ends up pinned to a wall with something around his neck holding him to the wall, and Rock and Jacob are pinned to the floor by a gravity bomb that was thrown next to them. Next, the Diviner escapes from below deck, but when he sees Essentia take Gwen at knife point, she orders him to complete the mission by hailing Starfleet. But he hesitates, and in kind of like a force type move, he calls Gwen's blade to him from where it had dropped to the floor during the fight and throws it at Essentia, but she catches it and hurls it back at him and hits him in the abdomen. At which point he goes down, and she opens hailing frequencies. And even though Admiral Janeway shows up on the bridge of the Dauntless at the last second to order that the Dauntless not answer the hail, it does answer the hail, and then the weapon kicks in and affects the entire fleet in a cascade, and the ships all begin firing on each other with shields down. Seeing what's happening through the windows from their incapacitated positions, Rock, Dahl, Murph, Jacob, and Zero use what little mobility they have to work together to free themselves. When they then storm the bridge to take back the ship, Essentia somehow encloses herself inside Dreadnought, who turns himself into some kind of like a torpedo casing, and then launches through the roof of the protostar to escape, at which point the computer seals the breach with a force field. The diviner passes away in Gwen's arms and then seems to turn into some kind of mist, which seems to merge with Gwen. And this occurs just as he's telling her that she'll have to be the one to be the salvation of their world and keep it from tearing itself apart when Starfleet, or if Starfleet, ends up making first contact. The universal translators then go down across the fleet and no one can talk to each other, causing Dahl to exclaim that while all hell is breaking loose out there, they can't lose control in there, meaning on the protostar. At which point, Gwen reveals that her father made sure that she learned different languages so that she could use them against whatever species they brought to the prison planet, and she's able to talk to the crew. They then communicate with Admiral Janeway on the bridge of the Dauntless and realize that they can probably start to salvage the situation by calling for help to Starfleet's allies who don't have Starfleet signatures emanating from their ships, at which point Dahl hands command over to Gwen, who makes an impassioned plea to one Klingon ship commander, asking them to repeat a distress call, and she does this in Klingon. And when the Klingon captain asks why they should help, Gwen says that it's because everyone needs to know that there's a place for them in the universe and that there needs to be a place for everyone in the universe, no matter who or what they are. And that's what the Federation stands for. But that if Starfleet goes down, there won't be a Federation. And it was just a really well written, I guess, speech you could call it. It was fantastic. It really was. The ships start to evacuate, and when a torpedo from one of the ships almost destroys the Dauntless, the Klingon bird of prey, commanded by the person that Gwen spoke with, sweeps in and deflects the blast with its shields. And it continues to deflect blasts from various ships at various ships as a Ferengi and a Gorn ship, among others, show up to do likewise. It turns out that hologram Janeway has fixed the universal translator so the crew is able to communicate again. But as automatically signaled backup ships from Starfleet start to show up, the non-Starfleet ships that had come to help are overwhelmed. And the situation takes a turn for the worse as the episode ends. This episode was just fantastic. And my description of the plot does not do it justice. You have to see it. It's really just excellent. So much heart in this episode. To see the crew, doing their thing, pulling together, rallying against all odds, and just continuing to move forward in the face of diversity and not giving up was just amazing. There are really heartfelt moments, especially between Gwen and Dahl and Gwen and the Diviner. John Noble is fantastic in this episode. The character that was written for him is just an excellent character. It's a character that has a lot of passion, some of which, is what is driving him to try to destroy Starfleet. But at the same time, his reason for doing so is that he's trying to protect his people that he cares very deeply about. He cares very deeply about Gwen, and he really has had this season a quite a moving arc that you didn't see coming in the beginning, and it's just fantastic. And John Noble is so excellent in the part, and I wish the character hadn't died, because we're not going to have that character around anymore, and that's a shame. But at the same time, it was a great death, if you can say, and just incredible. The Gwen character has come a long way from where she was at the beginning, which we knew was going to happen. We could tell she was a good person that was just kind of in a crazy situation at the beginning. But, she's had a lot of self-doubt that she's overcome, and this season isn't even over. There's still one more episode of the season. So this is a beautiful episode. The character stuff is brilliant. The space battle stuff is brilliant. It's incredible. I don't know what else to say about it. I can't wait for next week, but at the same time, I'm going to be sad to see the season end and to have to wait for season two. It's amazing, this episode. Have I said that it's amazing? Because it really is. You need to check out this episode. It's an absolute 10 out of 10. Some of the best Star Trek we've had in a long time. And frankly, one of the best episodes of television I've seen. Just fantastic, especially when you consider that it's supposed to be a kids show. It's nuts. The people behind the show should be extremely proud of themselves. I think, and this season has up to this point had some episodes that were mediocre. This is not one of them. This episode is amazing, and I just can't wait for next week. That's really all I can say about it. So I'm gonna get out of here. I'll be back to review the season finale next week. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.